Hey, hi, my name is Chris. Every day I'm doing a vlog and I'm doing one for 1,000 days, guys. 1,000 days. So if you're not subscribed, a subscribe will be absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. Every day I talk about something uniquely different. And today I'm going to ask you a question. What's the best way to divorce? Is there a best way? Is there a right way to separate from somebody, to leave it all behind and press forward and go on your own? Is there a specific way that you can avoid any of the sort of fallout from that kind of decision? And I think the short answer to it is you can't avoid absolutely everything. But I think you can do it in a way that is very, very conducive to a positive outcome. But it really does depend on how two people communicate. It really does. And if you can communicate without the bad feelings, it may be a decision between both of you where you both decide it's the right thing to do and call it a day and leave and just go it alone. And it's always seen as a bit of a shame, isn't it? When there's an ending of a relationship, when there's the ending of something, because it's seen as a failure, I think, to some people and some people's eyes. And if you see it as a failure, then you're missing out probably on some of the successes and some of the good times that you had together. And whilst it didn't last the course, but maybe it's not healthy for the two of you to remain together. Maybe pressing forward on your own, going forward, having a bit of that recovery time, a bit of that me time is such an important thing to do. And isn't it better to move away from a relationship that is fraught with difficulties and arguments and problems than remain in that and have that continually in your life, because you're not going to have peace. But the best way of moving forward, I think, is sitting down and communicating your feelings. If you can communicate how you feel to somebody and the reasons why that you want to move forward and move away from that relationship, I think normally these sort of things have raised their head over time. So it may well be a slow disintegration of your relationship. It may be that you get to the point where you don't necessarily want to sleep in the same bed, do the same things. Your interests are no longer aligned. You don't necessarily want to do things together. And there's a slow build-up to it. And sometimes it may be that the both of you recognise that, and that's probably the best way to call time on a relationship. And if you can call time on it in a very peaceful way, that's good. But invariably, domestic situations occur every minute of every day, probably, here in the United Kingdom. As a former police officer, I went to my fair share of domestics. And in fairness, most of them were just argument only, and you'd record an argument, and I guess there are other behaviours at play, isn't there? Obviously, the usual assaults, maybe. I say usual, but, you know, in terms of it being a familiar thing in the courts. And obviously, there is coercive, controlling, abusive behaviour, that kind of thing. And obviously, there's a lot more attached to domestics than I could do justice in this video. But moving forward, moving away, gravitating away from having a divorce, having a breakup of that relationship, it's necessary sometimes, because you can't remain in something that's not good for you. Remaining in something that's unhealthy makes you unhealthy, and you have to sort of sit down and say to the other person, I can't remain in this. And sometimes it would be a case where they would probably agree with you. They would say, I can't remain in it either. I can't remain doing this with you either, and it's sensible that we move forward. So here's a quick true story. I was married for 13 years, and my wife came home one day and told me that she'd obviously had an affair, which was unfortunate. And we sat down after a day or two around the table, the kitchen table, and we had a discussion. I was adamant that I didn't want to proceed with the relationship, and she agreed as well. So it was kind of almost a mutual thing, but really the fact that that there was that behaviour made me feel and understand that you have to move in a direction where you feel that your life is best placed. So we had a discussion for quite a while, and it was rather amicable and rather grown up, and that is how things remained. There was only one blip in the road, I think, when a friend got involved and encouraged my ex-wife to seek legal counsel, but she soon changed her mind on that, and we continued remaining friends on the road to our separation and eventual divorce. It was really funny because on the day that we called it a day, the house had sold, we were separating the monies, we agreed to meet at our bank, we separated the accounts, the staff were great, and we separated the money in a way that was suitable given to our financial and our current situation. So that was done amicably, and of course we'd done that, and it was really nice, if I can say that. She kissed me on the cheek and I kissed her, and we held hands, and I really wished her all the very best, and she wished me all the very best, and we both did a 180 and walked in entirely opposite directions, and it sounds like a scene out of a film. It really does, and it's played over and over in my mind. That feeling of how adult are we doing this? It's incredible how two people can just do that. It's after spending all that time together, but it seemed like a natural closure of it, and getting that natural closure was so important. It really was. Getting that feeling that it was okay for us to walk away from each other. And doing that made me have peace in my life. It got me a different lifestyle. And obviously it led on to other things in my life where I was able to meet other people and do other things. And it just taught me that civility in separating, civility in a divorce is so important. Now, after a while, after a fashion, we did remain in contact, purely just to finalise the divorce. Again, there was no legal aspect to it because she was happy for that to be the case, as was I. And when you have two people who are in agreement, who are amicable with each other, in spite of something so going horribly wrong, I finalised all the court papers and submitted them and waited the usual time period. It was ratified initially by the court. I think we had a nice eye and decree within no time, and I obviously sent her a copy, and that was the end of it. We were no longer married. We were no longer together. It was very grown up, very, very grown up. I think if you can divorce, separate, do whatever you need to do, but do it in that fashion, that's very admirable. And that's amazing. And I have since helped her. She requested me to help her with some insurance claim. So she needed a signature from me. I was more than happy to help in any way I could. And I think there was quite a large financial payout for her, given that. So if you can do that, if you can live your life in a way where you're happy to press forward and leave a relationship in a very adult, grown-up way. Now, there's lots of emotions at play, isn't there? There's lots of things going on in a relationship, and especially when somebody's been adulterous, well, that can seem manifestly unfair, and it can seem just difficult to do, and there's anger, resentment, there's a ton of feelings at play there. But if you can get your head past that and try and say to yourself, this is me going to a better place now, because you will be, and it's a rocky road, it's not easy to do. Sometimes the best things that happen to you in life aren't the easiest things. They're really difficult, because life is trying to teach you something. It's trying to say, you know what, you are worthy of getting somewhere else and being somewhere else with maybe someone better. And you go off on life's journey, and that's what life's journey teaches you, just to evolve, grow, learn, and be that better person that you're growing into. So I look upon my time being married with fondness. My ex-wife had a wonderful family. There's the loss of all that too, isn't there? There's the loss of these wonderful people that you've known for a long, long time. You've been welcomed into their hearts, into their home, into their family. And that is so sad when you see the loss of that. And, yeah, I do think about them every now and then. I do think, how are they doing? What are they up to? Are they living a life that's okay? By the way, you can tell it's raining. I'm just going to wipe the screen there. There we go. Let's get rid of that. But yes, I do often think about them. So there's an awful lot to consider when breaking up. But the initial breakup, please, if you can do it sensibly in an adult way, that's got to be the best thing, isn't it? If you can do that, you're amazing. And doing that will make you and your ex, your lives easier pressing forward. Because you never know, at some point in the future, you may need a signature off somebody. You may need to have that contact once more. And if you do, it's going to be so much easier. In behaving like adults, I was able to sign that signature for her. She was able to get a large sum of money, and her life, I'm sure, became more bearable and tolerable, because that's just how it turned out. And for me, I don't wish any ill will or any horrible things. I have still empathy and sympathy in my heart for her, given the fact that what happened. I'm sure regret plays a part on both our sides, and you have to say to yourself, when you form a relationship with somebody, people can change over time. People can move forward, do things completely out of character, and it depends on every individual circumstance how you feel about pressing forward. It's not always easy, and there's no right or wrong way to actually end a relationship, but there are some things that you may not be able to accept, and maybe adultery is one of them, maybe. And that's entirely an individual thing. So on that note, I hope this has helped today in some way. And I've shared a little bit about my own personal journey. I've checked out my analytics here on YouTube, and apparently 44% of you watching my videos are not subscribed. So I'd really appreciate a subscribe from you if you could. And obviously a like, and I'm currently having to try and save up for an iMac, so wish me luck in that endeavour. I'm trying to uplift my content, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I can acquire one at some point. As you know, these things are a little bit expensive. I am monetised on YouTube, but obviously not making an awful lot, so I appreciate anything that anybody is willing to do to support me, to push out more content in a better way. That would be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, on that note, this is part of my 1000 day series. I'll be back again tomorrow with something uniquely different. Thank you so much. I'll see you then. Hopefully it's not raining. See you tomorrow. Bye now.